psychologists, a few psychologists already, and we contrasted their psychology with Judaism. They themselves admit that Judaism is a way of life, is a very good psychological background and a basis for a normal psychological life and well-being. But here, well, as much as I don't tout myself as a psychologist, I am a rabbi, but that doesn't make me a psychologist. But on the other hand, like I say, that Torah does encompass all aspects. And there's certain things in the Torah that I think you'll find interesting that maybe you won't see in a psychologist or psychology textbook. But nonetheless, like I say, let's try to look into it and see something new, something different, as I feel something a little bit better. Now he says like this. This is actually, I'm just taking excerpts from one of the chapters. It's a big book. It has a lot of chapters in it, Tanya. Obviously, I can't teach it to you standing on one foot, as they say in Jewish literature. But we will try to give you a little taste, is what I think the best we can do in the limited time and scope that we have here. Just a little bit of a taste of just seeing what is in Jewish literature throughout the ages, and something that you could see that there's something expansive there. And it's then maybe hundreds and sometimes thousands of years old, but the wisdom is there. And if you just look at it and sometimes, like I say, compare it to the wisdom that's given off nowadays, you can make up your own view of who's smart and what material is better. Now he says like this. The Alter Rebbe, let's go on. That he said that this is a klal gadol, it's a very major principle, he says, that in part of Judaism. And that is just as with a victory over a physical opponent. For instance, two people who wrestle with each other, each striving to fell the other. All right, 200 years ago he says wrestling. If you want to use football, if that's your kind of sport for America, I think it's still the same kind of an example. And that is, if one of them is lazy and sluggish, he will easily be defeated and will fall, even if he be stronger than the other, since his laziness, sluggishness prevents him from revealing his strength. Meaning, and we always hear this, and you hear this on the football news, anybody who are sports enthusiasts, that, oh, they're a decent team, but they're just not up for the game, or some other team is, they're very hungry to have that win and to go for everything. You hear that in all kinds of sports. I mean, he said, brings on wrestling here. Like I said, I think it could go for any kind of sport. It goes with a lot for life, and that's what he's saying. And that is that a person may be better, maybe smarter, maybe stronger, maybe a lot of ways. But if you're going to be sluggish, you're going to be lapsadaisical about it, you're not going to win. Anybody who deals with anything, for example, with sports, will easily tell you that's the case. A person can be faster, stronger, and if he doesn't have a good attitude, they'll cut him from the team. There's no two ways about it. One of the biggest things that they're looking for is the attitude when it comes to sports. But really, it's a good example. Sports are not everything, but it's a good example to look to. And that's everything in life. And here also, that if a person is going to be happy and up for it and joyous, that they accomplish everything that they want to accomplish. They're going to be lazy, that even though that they'll be great and easily, they could be potentially be the winner and the better person. A smaller person and a lesser person is going to be better than them because they're doing things with enthusiasm. So he says, similarly with the conquest of one's evil nature. And as we talked about many times, and we bring this out here, then Judaism says that a person has their good inclination, and they have their evil inclination. In a way, it is like a war. Say a war, a wrestling match, a football match. Again, use the example that you like best. But it is a struggle, and life is a struggle. And it's not too unlike a struggle like we see in the sports stadiums, as the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman, uses here. It is impossible to conquer the evil nature with laziness and sluggishness, which stem from sadness and is a stone-like dullness to the heart. A person is going to be dull. He's not going to feel up for anything. Then the evil part of him is going to be able to topple him over, and they're going to be able to do anything they want with them. If you're going to be down, the way you're directed, that's exactly the way you're going to go. You're feeling down, you're going to go down. But rather with happiness, with zealousness, which derives from joy in an open, responsive heart, is unblemished by any trace of worry and sadness in the world. A person has to have trust, and they have to have happiness. The more trust, the more happiness, and that they will be able to conquer everything. And mainly, remember this, and Judaism says this also, I mean, it's one of the major ideas, really, is that before we conquer outside of ourselves, we have to conquer ourselves first. We have to, if you want to call it secure in yourself, you have to be one with yourself. Again, we're not dealing with semantics here. Sometimes we say some words that sometimes are used in the psychological words. Sometimes they're street language. And certain times, maybe they're Jewish rabbinical language. But like I said, trying to say what the real point is behind them, and maybe they're saying it in different words, but really what's the point behind it? That a person has themselves an evil nature in themselves, and has to rise themselves up and be a better person for them. And they can only do this with joy and happiness. There's a verse, sadness, there will be profit, which means that some profit and advantage will be derived from it. So this is a contradiction in terms, as rabbinical teachings like doing so much. If we talked about a little bit of the Talmud before in other shows, is that they try to take one idea and contrast it with another idea, and the friction between the two and the lessons you drive out from them, you come up with even a deeper idea. So here also, on one hand we said it's supposed to be happy. On the other hand, we're telling you that there's a sentence in the Proverbs that there's going to be profit. It'll be something good out of depression. Seems like a contradiction. Seems like that depression is a good thing from that idea. But he says, but look at it a little more carefully. It says there will be profit. Implies that, on the contrary, the sadness itself has no virtue, except that some profit will ultimately be derived from it, meaning that it will be in the future. There's nothing good out of it now, that maybe we can find something good out of it later. The only thing good out of the depression is going to be in the later terms. And which is it? And this profit is the true joy which follows the true justified sadness over one's sin, with bitterness of soul and a broken heart, which would come at specific suitable times. Now, a person has to feel down. We're not going to say a person is always going to be 100% happy throughout their life, and that's ridiculous. It's an impossibility. But there will be depression. But when a person has to use their sadness for the right way, if a person feels sad, he's going to say, Rabbi Shneur Zalman is going to bring out that he should use that sadness and depression for something positive. How? To look at yourself and think, listen, I should have done better. I've tripped up and I messed up before in other areas. And then you're feeling down on that and bringing yourself down on that idea, but knowing that ultimately you should be able to bounce back. And that bouncing back is an important idea, because you can use a different sports idea of the springboard at swimming. Because in order for a person to go higher on a springboard, you just don't jump off the ledge. You first have to have the really good the jumpers, that they jump up a little bit and they come down on the springboard, and then they zoom right up even higher. So in order to go higher, you first have to go down a little bit. And that's what he's going to say here also, that in order for a person to really feel happy, you have to, in a way, clean yourself out first. And that's an important idea about cleaning yourself out from below and knowing what your problems are, but then dealing with them, and then just bouncing back up and knowing that ultimately things are going to be better. So, of course, I always tell myself that I have a million stories for everything, and I'll tell you a little story here now also. So there's a story, but I think the moral is simple. And that is that one person, I don't know how true it is, again, they don't make it as a true story, but the idea is a good idea. And he says the German Kaiser was a relative with Russian Tsar. And the Russian Tsar offered, he says, the German Kaiser to come to his palace and meet him and have a state dinner, beautiful banquet. He's going to invite all the noble people, and it's going to be a beautiful affair. Of course, the German Kaiser comes, and he comes with his entourage and his family, all of the special people of Germany. Comes with they finally come to a tremendous banquet in Russia. And everybody's sitting there, and all the royalty is sitting there. And they bring out the tremendous food. And one of the good foods there was, well, in Yiddish you call it kishkes, and you call it derma is in English, and it's really the intestines of the cow, and they fill it up with all kinds of dainties. It's really a really a treat. If you haven't had it, I don't know if you can even get, to tell you the truth, without a kosher delicatessen. The people who know it, I'm sure their mouths are watering. The people who don't, I invite them anytime to go to a kosher deli and pick up some stuff. Kishka, it's called. In any case, that they were serving this, and ooh, did it taste good. And it just was so beautiful, and everybody was loving it. And the Kaiser says, he went to the Russian Tsar. He says, this was a tremendously great banquet. I loved every minute of it. The food was scrumptious, and nothing bad could be said. But do me one favor, please. I have my personal chef here, one of my ministers. Please have your chef give him the recipe for this tremendous kishka over here, this German. It's tremendous. It was so good. I want my chefs to make it for me too. There says, no problem. He gave order to chef. Please tell this minister exactly how to make it, and they'll give it over to the Kaiser. Fear goes over, go back to Germany. Kaiser says, he tells everybody else who wasn't there, did I eat such a special food when I was in Russia? And I'm going to have my chef prepare it, and ooh, it's going to be good. So he comes in, everybody's waiting for it, taste it. Terrible, something bad smells over here. Just doesn't taste right. Kaiser says, what's with this chef? I invited everybody for a beautiful food. Did you follow everything that was supposed to be done in the recipe? Chef says, sure, 100%. I did everything that was supposed to be done. So they send a letter to the Russian, what kind of business, I expected you to give me the right recipe. And my chef says he followed the recipe, and it really tastes not so hot at all. And are you tricking me? What kind of business is this? So they said, no, we're not kidding. We try to give you over the right recipe. Let's hear it. Maybe you heard it wrong. Maybe you wrote it down wrong. What's the problem? So what happened was that they tell over the whole recipe, the Germans. And one thing that they forgot to clean it out beforehand. I mean, the moral of the idea is clear, that before these intestines had to be, of course, edible, they had to be cleaned out. And that's for ourselves also. For ourselves to be good people, and for ourselves proper and receptacles for the goodness and the blessings that are within ourselves also. First, we have to start thinking about ourselves, and they're going to be able to be raised to a higher level. And it says, for their spirit of impurity is broken, the iron wall that separates him from his Father in heaven. As the Zohar comments on the verse, a broken spirit, a broken heart, you will not seize. Preceding verses will be fulfilled for him. Make me hear joy and gladness. Restore me the joy of your salvation and support me with spirit. Meaning, first, a person to feel a little bit of a sadness and a broken spirit, and it eliminates this evil aura around them, just the bad feelings. We shouldn't have feelings. And many times we talk about in Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, a human individual is very, very, that even can't underline enough to you and emphasize enough that how much important it is. Even the small act, and I really even mean one's speech, words of a person. Even according in mysticism goes even to a deeper level. The thought, whatever you think, really surely doesn't affect the world. No one knows what you're thinking on your mind. But it's not true, because everything a person does is an emanating sign of spiritual aura around them. And if it's an evil aura and the wrong thoughts and the wrong speeches, then that aura becomes around that person also. You break it, of course, break yourself out of but since we're dealing with an aura, a broken heart, the feelings of the brokenness of a person is able to break that spirit around them. And then once that spirit is broken, then the person would be able to bring in the happiness and the true joy that they're going to even feel on a greater level that will come from that depression. Before that, there will be profit from depression, only, of course, after they're broken from the evil that they have inside them. Now, we were talking about very general ideas. Be happy, don't be sad. Now, of course, life isn't so simple as we said before, and therefore we have to understand, of course, some problems happen in the world. What are you going to do? Certain things maybe it's make you sad. So we have to deal with it also. And it says, it's brought out in the further chapter, that he says there's some sound advice has been offered by our sages on cleansing of all sadness and any trace of worry about Monday. even a sense of worry caused by lack of such essentials as children, health, and livelihood. We talked about on the Rosh Hashanah holiday is just that there are three major needs of a person. Their children. First, you have children, health, and livelihood, a person to make a living. These are the three major needs of a person. I hope so blessings come through and every person has enough, and even in an abundant way. What if something's wrong? People have troubles with their children, sometimes even having children, with their health and their livelihood. And we know a person has to be. Now we're getting down to real issues. You have a real reason to be sad. What kind of business is this? I have some real things that are troubling me, and I don't know what with them. So it says, in the advice of our sages, just as one recites a blessing for his good fortune, so too must also recite a blessing for misfortune. Now that's very beautiful. We only think is a lot of people say, oh, everything's good, there's no problem, and thank you for the blessings. When something bad happens, then everybody thinks, oh, everybody's abandoned me, and people and God, and everybody is not with me now. And that's not true. It's really not true, and here's the key to this whole matter. A person has to understand that misfortune also is a part of life. It's a part of the situation that he's dealt with. And he has to be happy for it because there's some good that's going to come out of misfortune. And the Gemara explains. Let the Gemara do some explaining. I know it's a big issue. This does not mean that he recite the same blessing for the blessing in case of misfortune, God forbid. Rather, the implication is that one should accept misfortune with joy, like the joy in a visible and obvious good. Meaning that a person knows that it's a misfortune. Since he knows that the Almighty is the one who gives it to him, then he ultimately feels that the misfortune actually has a good reason for it. And he could really see that there's something good that comes out of it. For it too is for the good, except it is not apparent and visible to mortal eyes, for it stems from the hidden spiritual world, which is higher than the revealed spiritual world. Now it comes time for one of my other stories, like one of my million. We're up to a few for today. This story is taken from the Gemara. And the Gemara says, Rabbi Akiva, one of the most famous sages at the time of the Talmud, he was traveling through one town to another, teaching his lessons. And one time he came, and he had he had donkey, carry his books, do his caring for him. He got up first thing in the morning when cock-a-doodles, and he brought himself a candle to learn at night. Comes into town. What happens? The inn was full. He didn't put his credit card in time, I guess, a few thousand years ago, and he goes to one hotel, another inn, and then he goes to some private people, and they didn't want to let him in. You're a stranger, we don't want to know. What's he going to do? These people are not nice people in this town. They won't even let him stay in a town, a person who has nowhere to go. So he said, oh, I'm just going to go into the forest outside, make myself some brush or something like that, some leaves, and cover myself over. Spend the night out of the town. But you know what Rabbi Akiva said? He didn't get sad. How would you feel? There's nowhere to see. You go to the next town. It's not like you can drive another 10 minutes and find another city with a motel. Stranded, you can't travel. What are you supposed to do? It's nighttime already. So you think this is a good reason to be sad? Look at me, and I was studying, and I was a good person, and look at the bad things happened to me. No, it looked that way maybe to us, but it wouldn't be. He says, I'm sure this is for the good. I'm sure this is going to be for the good. What happened? Well, what happened just that night was highwaymen and robbers came into town, and they invaded the city, and they killed a few people, and they carried other people to be slaves, and they plundered the town. At the same time, over here, that a big lion came. I guess they had wild animals in days in Israel, it seems, from the times of the Mishnah. They had a lot of them, and killed a donkey. And a light went out, and blew out his candle. And then a wild cat came and ate his rooster. And everything, all the bad things, Rabbi Akiva said, this must be for the good, even though it was one misfortune on top of another. Because he says, if I would have been left in town, I would have been captured also by the highwaymen, the robbers. If my donkey wasn't eaten, he would have brayed, he made a noise, and people, the highwaymen, hey, who's over there in the woods? And if, again, the same thing with the light would have been on, and the chicken would have been cock-a-doodling or whatever, then he would have been heard or saw. Because of that, He says, you see, don't you see what I've been saying? That even misfortune in this world really has a good reason. And I think that's a really important lesson for all of us. And the good psychology things, and we're talking the word psychology in the middle. But if that's what it is, then that's what it is. But give it your own name, say what you want. The main thing is a person has to be happy. And certain things in life, if they look like a misfortune, they look like an unhappy occurrence. But what can we do? We say we have to take some good thing that comes out of that. And I just brought out a few stories for you, and these are stories from the Talmud to learn by. And this is from the Tanya. It's so unfortunate that maybe we'll have to get back to it in another time, because it really should know that thousands upon thousands of Jewish people every day learn from this book of Tanya. It's such a basic work of Jewish thought. And that's what keeps people going. And people always ask, what's the Jewish people going? Well, it's not the bagel and lox, and it's not the gefilte fish, even though they're good and don't want to knock it. But it's the Jewish thought. If you don't learn, you digress. The world's like a mountain, a slippery slope. This is a good lesson for all of us to take. And if a person is on the ascendancy, then they're going to keep on going up and not looking down. A person is going to stand still or going to start looking down and seeing what's below them, then they're also going to be lower. Where your eyes go, that's where you're going to head off to. And that's exactly what the idea of learning the Torah is. It's an important idea for us because the Tanya is giving us lessons. It's just one short lesson is all we had time for today. We'll have to come back with a few more lessons in the Tanya and other times. But I just wanted to bring out to you, again, wet your tongue and taste for that Judaism a few hundred years ago had more, sometimes, and of course maybe I could say that what I feel, that better answers than sometimes all the researchers and the modern day ideas that come out on how to be happy and what to do for yourself, and don't be sad, don't be depressed, and these are ideas that really that every person can take from themselves and take for the good lessons out of them and being a help for themselves also, no matter what they do and no matter what their station in life. And it's mystical ideas, yes. On the other hand, like I said, every person can benefit for them. That is the news of the Tanya, taking the deepest secrets and bringing it out to the layman's term to every person. And it doesn't make a difference if they're a scholar or not. The greatest scholars take great lessons from this. Who's going to say that these eternal truths are not for everybody? They're for us, they're for me, they're for you. And the person wants to learn more, of course, we can always teach them more. And again, more farther than the limited scope of this show. But meantime, that take out a good lesson, and hopefully that a person shall be happy, not be depressed, and take with them a good lesson from the Tanya. Thank you very much. Shalom. Welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Delmar Chabad Center. And today our topic is going to be Moses. Well, I'm sure most people heard about Moses, and everybody knows about Moses and the Ten Commandments going up to Mount Sinai. But I'm not just going to give a simple history lesson. Of course,